I did everything in accordance with the rules, in accordance with my recommendations.
A scarce national resource has been underpriced, grossly underpriced.
What he did was he implemented a policy which was in place.
It is the largest scam in independent India.
His policy on first come, first serve, clearly causing a loss of 50,000 crore to the National Exchequer.
The Telecom Minister A.Raja has been under the scanner for the last 2 years for the sale of 2G spectrum.
Scandal, which as I repeat, is the biggest scandal of independent India.
The 3G auction, which has netted over Rs 70,000 crores, brings out the magnitude, this undervaluation of the spectrum. The 2G spectrum, which by TRAI's statement of 11th May 2010, has the same value as that of 3G spectrum. By this token, the loss to the Exchequer is a whopping 135,000 crore rupees.
The government is going to rake in as a result of the 3G auctions. But compare this to the 9,000 crore that the government got in the 2G auctions, and you'll realize that all this time that Telecom Minister A.Raja has been questioned. The questions are really about this difference.
What is the spectrum and why is it so expensive? Mobile or cellular telephones use radio waves, which is a part of the larger electromagnetic spectrum that also includes visible light. A part of the electromagnetic waves carry voice conversations in mobile telephones similar to the way radio programs reach us. In fact, the mobile phones are transmitters as well as radio receivers. That is why they can be used to hear FM radio programs. One critical thing to understand about radio spectrum is that it's all allocated for something. There is very little empty spectrum that isn't used for anything. Some is used by the military, police and aircrafts. Radar uses radio waves. So does TV and FM/AM radio broadcasts. Since spectrum allocation happens only infrequently, any company that holds spectrum becomes valuable. It can do mobile business, while a company that does not hold spectrum cannot do mobile business. In India, spectrum has been bundled with mobile licenses. The scramble for licenses is in fact a scramble for spectrum. The telecom market has also grown exponentially in the country. In 2001, when the fourth 2G operator was brought in, through a public auction, there were only 4 million subscribers. When the 2G licenses were allotted, the market had grown to 200 million, 50 times the 2001 figure. The IT and Telecom Minister A.Raja decided to give licenses to the new 2G entrants and to CDMA operators in 2007 at 2001 prices. If we take the current 3G price of the spectrum and use it to compute the 2G price of the spectrum, this will amount to Rs 172,500 crore. If we take out the Rs 12,500 crores that the new entrants and the CDMA operators paid, the net loss was a whopping Rs 160,000 crores. The minister argued that first come first serve principle and using 2000 prices was due to 2003 policy adopted by the earlier ministry. What he forgets is that once the 2007 recommendations of TRAI came, the 2000 policy was no longer valid. The Finance Ministry, the Law Ministry, as well as PMO had urged upon the minister to adopt routes for price discovery of fixation other than the dubious route of distributing spectrum or licenses at 2001 prices on a first-come first-served basis. This was also the opinion of D.S. Mathur, Secretary DOT, and Manju Madhavan, Member Finance, Department of Telecom, arguing the case for auctions against the first-come first-served principle.
Spectrum has created a rift within the Department of Telecom. DOT's Member Finance Manju Madhavan has applied for voluntary retirement. This comes after she fell out with the Telecom Secretary and the Minister over the issue of spectrum pricing. Sandeep Gurumurthy
The Minister ignored all these letters and still went ahead with his first-come first-served policy and using 2001 prices. Though the Minister initially had declared that the cut-off date for parties applying for licenses on a first-come first-served basis was 1st October. Subsequently, he changed this date to the 25th of September, well after the date the parties had applied. The Delhi High Court struck this decision down, calling this a change of rules after the game had begun. Even more glaring was modifying the first-come first-served basis from the date of application for license to whoever deposits the money first. The 25th September cut-off date and this change of what constitutes first-come were done on January 10, 2008. well after the ranking of parties as per original criteria was known, and was nothing but a blatant attempt to change this ranking. Not surprisingly, ministers' favourite parties jumped the queue as a result of this. A PNT audit report shows that the announcement for those depositing money will get priority was announced only 2 hours before the giving in of money. Yet, parties had prepared cheques for 1,651 crores even before the announcement. Not only did the telecom minister undervalue the spectrum, he also violated the legal requirement that any change in TRAI recommendations need to be referred back to TRAI and cannot be done by the minister unilaterally. The TRAI in 3 letters wrote to the Minister and Department of Telecom, saying that Department of Telecom needed to make unilateral changes or cherry-pick its recommendations of August 2007. The changes were to mergers and acquisitions and the rollout obligations. TRAI had made clear that no mergers and acquisitions should be allowed before rollout obligations of the operators were met. Both were changed in order to allow parties securing the license at throwaway prices to resell it immediately to others. Swan and Unitech sold their licenses within months for 5 to 6 times the price at which they had secured the licenses, without making any further investments than one of buying the licenses. What can be done now that the government has given away spectrum almost free?
I think the Prime Minister should come out into the open. I don't think he helps himself, his government, the image that he has of being an honest Prime Minister. I think he's certainly not helping himself or the image of the government by indirectly supporting Mr. Raja. As for Mr. Raja, I don't think he has the moral authority to remain in that position. I think not only he, his political boss, who happens to be the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, the DMK Supremo Muthuvel Karunanidhi, should ask him to put in his papers.
Now that the government has given away spectrum almost free, the government must recover the difference from the operators by using the current spectrum price as computed by TRAI using the 3G prices.